So where are you?
Your front porch.
From making fun of the typical horror tropes to changing the genre forever, the Scream movies have done a number on the horror slasher department. And here's why the latest installment will be an even bigger game changer for the franchise. But first, let's get it out there. The Scream movies aren't going anywhere, and they aren't as senseless as the Fast and Furious franchise, okay? The slasher franchise comes a bit close to nonsense, but that's the beauty of this franchise.
So who are you?
The question isn't who am I? The question is where am I?
It has always played on the fact that slasher movie tropes are ridiculous. Movies like Scream have made the public realize that they may be watching garbage, but as long as it's entertaining, it's worth it.
There are 2 killers in the original Stab. I'm afraid someone's gotta die now.
No, Amber, I'm coming.
And there's no denying that the Scream franchise is one of the more commercially successful ones out there. Halloween may have come close, but that series has a whole different narrative. The ghost faces in Scream usually don't have an authentic reason to kill teenagers. They just do it for the sake of it, and the audience somewhat likes it.
Not in my movie.
And not just the villain, but the slasher genre fans will forever remember the name Sidney Prescott as the GOAT survivor of all slasher attacks. Her character set the standard too high for the female survivor starter pack that we mostly see in slasher movies these days.
Well, I have no idea.
But kudos to the franchise for keeping it fresh, even after an awfully long hiatus. The success of Scream 5 in theaters immediately led to greenlighting another sequel, and Scream 6 will mark the first time Neve Campbell won't be returning as her titular character. And according to the franchise's creator, it will only continue to grow even after the 6th installment. The creator of the original Scream movie thinks that there's still opportunity for the franchise to continue, and Kevin Williamson isn't wrong. He may not have thought about it at the beginning, but the franchise followed a certain formula that's been surprisingly successful, even today. Well, the slasher genre has become highly saturated, with any XYZ crook with a knife or a saw lurking around every corner. To Kevin, the thing that sets the Scream franchise apart is the surprise element. In other successful slasher movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th, everyone knows it's either going to be Jason or Michael or Freddy, and they're pretty much the same character in all those stories. Well, I have no idea how Michael survived gunshots and stab wounds, but he always comes back as himself, and Kevin thinks that's exactly why the franchise will thrive in the future, because no one Ghostface is the same person. Every sequel had 1 or 2 different killers behind the mask, and that keeps the audience on edge. You'll have a Sidney Prescott joining in at the last moment, but you can never tell who's behind the mask. Every Ghostface has a different motive and a different cringy slasher trope to satisfy. As per Williamson, that last twist is always a game changer, and that's how they can keep the franchise alive. I personally would have disagreed, but Scream 5's success tells that people want more. Speaking of which, the iconic Ghostface character will undergo some major changes in the upcoming sequel. But will the audience accept this new phase of the franchise? This isn't Marvel we're talking about, and even if the franchise does make some changes to the iconic killer, it might come as something refreshing to the fans. Scream 6 will definitely be the turning point for the slasher series for several reasons. Sydney will no longer be the final girl, which means that the audience can expect almost anything. There's no guaranteeing who will survive the upcoming onslaught. Ghostface could be anyone who is obsessed with horror movies to a point where they kill to prove their point. But in Scream 2022, we saw Melissa Barrera's Sam Carpenter emerging as the new final girl, and her character could throw the franchise in a whole new direction. Scream 6 could finally come out of the Sidney Prescott arc and continue from there with another 6 movies. From the trailer, I'm pretty sure that the slasher movie isn't in the same territory. Ghostface has decided to expand their boundaries all the way to New York. This means that there won't be any past associations with anyone in Woodsboro. The pool of potential suspects would be infinite in a city like New York, which means that the killer might be hitting hitting a jackpot here. But most of all, I'm more interested in how Sam's character's arc fits in the New York narrative. Sam Carpenter emerged as the new survivor and heroine of the Scream franchise, and Scream 6's trailer marks her return, which leads us to imagine the importance of her role moving forward. Sam is Sidney Prescott's old boyfriend's daughter, and she sort of personally received the torch from the final girl herself. It seems that the franchise is hinting to great significance her character might have now. Scream 6's new poster has New York City's subway map in the shape of Ghostface's mask. Each stop hints to a past or present character, but Sam Carpenter's name is visibly large and all routes lead to her. It looks like she's Ghostface's main target, and they may be setting up everything just to get her to the right point. But what is she doing so far away from Woodsboro? That too in New York. Some crazy fan theory suggests that she could be the actual killer, and that could be the franchise's ultimate twist. But it seems like it's been done too many times. But even then, doing it too many times is what has kept the Scream movies floating. They do the same thing with different characters, and it just seems to tick with the audience. And I think it's about time too, especially with Sidney getting old. How long will she keep this up? We need fresh blood, and Sam's the key. But there are still a few things that fans want the slasher franchise to fix. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there. If a franchise has to kill off a character, especially in a slasher movie, they should at least make sense out of it. I mean, Dewey's death was tragic, but it was also ridiculous, considering he was killed by a girl half his age. It was a twist, but not an appreciable one for that matter. The franchise keeps repeating this mistake, and it's mistreating their legacy characters. One of the reasons why the Scream movies work is because the original characters keep popping up and the audience loves it. But the franchise should just cut back on brutally killing off key characters without a solid resolve. Scream 6 should do justice to the remaining characters and ease into the process. We get it, slasher movies can't have too many heroes, but still, you gotta stick to the formula. And while on the topic of legacy characters, Scream legend Courtney Cox has finally addressed Neve Campbell's absence from the franchise. Honestly, I was hoping we'd see an old Sidney Prescott sitting on a porch somewhere with a gun in her hand. But like most Scream fans, I'm disappointed too by her sudden exit. Even Sidney's longtime partner, Gale Weathers, isn't happy about her missing co-star. Talking with Variety, Cox admitted that she missed working alongside Neve, but she completely supports the actress's stance. Campbell exited the franchise over pay issues. Since then, several of her old co-stars from the franchise and new ones have spoken out in her defense. They were mostly surprised that it came down to a split due to business issues. Even Melissa Barrera has questioned the franchise's decision to not pay their lead actress accordingly. It raises several eyebrows, especially when it comes to gender equality in cast salaries. Luckily, Cox will be returning in her fierce reporter persona as Gale Weathers. And that's all about Scream 6 and how the latest movie might be changing the slasher genre forever.